I think right after 9/11, there was a lot of fear. I covered 9/11 in New York. I was there, ground zero, the night it happened, and it was devastating. And I think a lot of people were fearful that the next attack was going to come. And then we had the anthrax scare. And it's really difficult now, with the value of hindsight, to look back and to remember how fearful we were. It's easy to criticize, but it's harder to remember how fearful we were. So I think at the beginning there was a lot of support for the war on terror, as George Bush called it. I think that quickly dissipated over the years. But I would say for the first year and a half, there was a lot of support for that. Now, when we look back at some of the statements that were made, in particular when Bush said, "You're either with us or you're with the terrorists," and it was this black and white decision, now it's easy to ridicule that. I think at the time, there wasn't a lot of criticism about that, though. Well, Guantanamo factored large in Al-Qaeda's propaganda, and Guantanamo has changed over the years quite a bit. But it was those initial images of the detainees in the orange jumpsuits with the dogs barking at them and the soldiers standing over them. And it was those images that you see constantly used over and over. And what Al-Qaeda would argue is that this was an example of great American hypocrisy, in that they were holding people who had not been charged, many who were seen as innocent. There were more than 700 that went through Guantanamo, and we've only had a trial for a handful of detainees. So I think Al-Qaeda used Guantanamo very effectively as a rallying cry. And you've seen that. I've seen that over the world as I travel, that you go to, I've been in Yemen or Somalia or Pakistan, Djibouti, these places, and I'm often asked about Guantanamo. It's a real fascination. And it's really hard for people to understand. So I think Al-Qaeda used that effectively in their propaganda, and I think when President Obama came to power, he was keen to get rid of that symbol. Well, I think since 9/11, I've been trying to answer that question. What makes someone who's grown up here in Canada, in the US and Australia and Britain, who has, by all accounts, a comfortable life, has been given all the advantages that perhaps their parents haven't been given, and they decide then to go to somewhere, often where they've never been before, and join this deadly group? It's a really hard question to answer, because I don't think there's one profile of somebody who has been recruited, and we have to watch for those, the elements that make up that one profile. I think probably the only commonality is that you do have people who are ripe for recruitment who want to belong. Sort of like many movements we've had in the past, it's that sense of belonging. And they've been able to find that usually online first or within the community. And from there, they then go and travel abroad. I think this idea of completely objective journalism is false. I know myself as a journalist, I try to go into every story with a completely open mind, get all sides of the story. But of course, I'm influenced by what I've seen over the last 10 years, what I've covered, my own beliefs. So I think it's really important for people to look at a variety of media outlets. I mean, that's one of the benefits now of having so much information out there, that you can compare reports, because I think you do see different angles on one news event. So it's really important to cover different angles. I think the issue of propaganda is an important one for journalists to ask themselves as well, because I know I've asked myself over the years, has my coverage of certain terrorist attacks or plots, has that actually glorified what's happened? And how does my reporting play into the greater picture? And I think that's something good to keep in mind.